What's up guys, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today I'm going to show you what went into the making of this Electro House drop. This was for a remix I did for a client, and then he was kind enough to allow me to post that to my channel. And so here's what that drop sounds like. And then that goes on from there. So I'm going to jump into the layering a bit and a bit of the kind of thought process behind it. And then I also want to jump quickly into the build. And that's the stuff I'm going to focus on today. So let's build this up piece by piece. So let's start off here. We got a kick, first of all. I liked the grit and attack on this kick. This used to actually be a longer kick. But as I ended up building up the drop, it was clear that that wasn't going to fly, so I used LFO tool to shorten it up here. And then brought out a bunch of top end and cut a bit of the low end. Keep it punchy, keep it short, and then leave room for the bass. So the main bass is a couple of layers. First of all, the sub. And that is a triangle wave. So you get kind of that grit there as well as that low end. Pumped, of course, by trusty LFO tool. And I spent a bit of time just making sure these played nicely together. And they sound decent by themselves, so then I can go ahead and start building. So and that's kind of the main meat of the drop. So this here is a serum patch, and this has got a bit of a release going on here, and these couple of wavetables with some FM going on here, and then this plucking it a bit. So let me take off LFO tool on the EQ. So that's already got some low end of its own, but I wanted the sub to be carrying that, so it'd just be this nice clean sub. And so I went ahead and cut that and boosted the highs a bit. Pump it, and then you've got this. And then for this section over here, I processed it just slightly differently and made a couple tweaks to the patch. Just so you kind of get that punch-in effect there. That duplicated kick there for that little fill in this section here. And so in the kind of the second fourth of the drop, I added in another layer. One thing I forgot to mention about kind of all this stuff really is that it's got a good bit of glide on it, and that adds to kind of the swagger of the whole drop. And you notice this one has a lot of sustain on it, so it kind of drags out, fills in all those little gaps left by the pluckiness of the main bass. So that's this. Then a couple of top loops. Nothing fancy here, just clap, essentially. And then a ride. And then finally these horns here. When I'm building a drop, what I want to do in the second half is up the energy by several notches. And I can do it a few different ways. What will often be done, and I will often do, is add in something on the 2 and the 4. In this case, this snare clap combo thing. And then also have some stuff that goes up an octave in this case. So the bass and this lead here stay the same, nothing happens to them, but then we add on these two elements here. And so we've got this one here. Got that little pitch movement at the very beginning of each note and a bunch of glide. And it's a bunch of notes just on multiple octaves layered, and then just a crap ton of low end taken out. Almost adds this kind of tropical house feeling, almost-ish. And then this saw lead here. Once again, lots of glide going on, so all together. There are really not a ton of elements going on all at once. It's decently sparse, and that's what makes it work. It made it easier to mix and made it easier to make it much more powerful because you're just being hit with a few really powerful elements. And then the high track count here comes from the fact that things are constantly changing. So then real quick, let's jump into the breakdown and the build. The breakdown is even simpler. It's essentially just 3 elements: a sub bass. This is the same sub bass as the drop, except it's shorter with a longer release, so it can get that little boom kind of thing going on. And then this saw here. And then a modified version of the pluck from the drop. So in order to transition this into the drop within the space of the build, the first thing I did was I brought in a really filtered version of the main drop bass element. So that'd be this guy right here. Brought that in here. So first of all, it's kind of mimicking the sub bass. But then as time goes on, your ears are slowly introduced to the fact that, oh, this is a different element. So bringing in that high end slowly introduces the element so that your ears are ready for it by the time the full drop hits. And then also I take out a bunch of bass as time goes on. That way the bass can be nice and powerful in the drop and be nice and kind of tinny in the build so that it just kicks you in the face when the drop kicks in. And then I also took these elements, and these are all kind of doing the same chord progression, note progression here. So this immediately gets filtered down and very slowly just kind of gets squeezed out of existence. Until you can't really hear it that well, so by the time the drop comes in, you're used to not hearing that element. And from there, then I add my risers and my snare build. So I got this here. That pops up in pretty much every song I do, along with this guy here. Just a very basic white noise rise. And that is it for today. If you would like to hear the full version of this song, you can click or tap right here. And if you'd like to check out more behind the scenes videos, you can click or tap right here. I'll have something new in a week or two, so until then, I'll see you guys next time. Peace!